Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session on programming. Today, we are going to learn a little bit about what programming is, how it works, and then you're going to do a fun activity where you're going to create your own memes using your new programming skills. So let's get started. First of all, I am Sally Holloway. I am um, a former computer science teacher, and I currently work for our school district supporting all of our 6 through 12 computer science programs. So I'm really excited to introduce you to some of the basics of computer science. Before we get started, let's talk about what programming really means. It's as simple as designing and building computer programs to complete a certain task. Think about all the different apps and programs you use every day. Maybe it's TikTok or Snapchat or Google Docs or eClass, whatever that might look like. Someone, a programmer, developed those programs using code behind the scenes. They can be really complex or they can be really simple, as you'll see today. Let's look at how programming works before we actually get to your task. We're going to use a website called Blockly Maze, which you can find and practice in your own time just simply by Googling Blockly Maze. It's a really easy way to understand how programming works without having a lot of background knowledge. So in this maze, basically our goal is to get our player, seen here, to its destination, seen here. It can only travel on the yellow road. Here in the middle are all the pieces of code or blocks that we can use to control our player and build our program. And over here on the right is where we drag our blocks to actually put the program together. Then we click this red button to run it and see if it works correctly. So let's give it a try. We know our player only needs to move forward to get to the destination. But when we try it out, we see our player gets stuck here, and it's because they have to move forward more than one time. You might have a hard time seeing these tiny white lines on our road. That tells us how many times the player should move forward. So in this case, we know they need to move forward 2 times to get to the goal. Let's try it again. That worked. So you can see programming can be just that simple. Whenever you complete a level, it's going to show you what that looks like in the real programming language of JavaScript. There are lots of different languages that we can use to create programs, and JavaScript is one of the most popular ones. Let's try another level. In this case, our player is going to have to make a couple different decisions or a couple different moves to get to the destination from last time. One of the ways that we can approach this is by putting ourselves in the player's position and thinking through the steps the players will need to take to get to the destination. So just like last time, we know we're going to have to start by moving forward once. When we get here, the only path available to us is to the left. So we're going to tell our player to turn left. Then they'll need to move forward again before they get to another dead end. Now the only path available is to the right, so we'll tell them to turn right. And then lastly, they'll need to take one step forward to get to the destination. Let's see how that works. It worked great. Let's look at another example. This maze looks super simple. They're just going to move forward a bunch of times. But you can see here we've got some restrictions. We can only use 2 blocks. Now, one of the reasons we limit ourselves is because depending on how long this path could be, it would be really boring and inefficient to have to put a ton of move forward blocks. That could get old pretty quickly. So that's when we can use this loop. This is called a repeat block. And it basically will do whatever's inside of it until the condition is met. So this says our player is going to move forward over and over and over again until they get to their destination. Let's see what happens. It works. We'll look at one more example here. In this case, our player is going to be doing the same action over and over and over again. They're going to move forward, turn left, move forward, turn right, move forward again. We just saw this a couple levels ago. But just like before, we don't want to have to continue to drag these blocks over and over and over again. So we can use our repeat until. So we tell it to move forward, turn left, move forward, turn right. And it's going to be able to continue to repeat that pattern until it meets the destination. And it works. We're not going to go through all the levels of Blockly Maze, but you can see there are several more ways that you can learn by completing these levels. It does get more challenging as you go, and it's a great way to understand the basic ways we can control our programs using code. So here are a couple tips that might be helpful to you today. The first one is debugging. Oftentimes our code will have errors or bugs, and we have to find a way to fix them. Think about the first level. We had just used one move forward block, but that didn't work. Our player got stuck halfway through. So we had to think and figure out what happened. We realized that he needed to move forward again, so we used another block. That's the process of finding an error and fixing it. It's really common to have errors when you're programming. Even the most experienced and skilled programmers have to debug all the time. The next thing that you'll want to think about is how you're going to solve problems. Really, computer science is using the power of technology to solve problems. There's all kinds of problems around us that we can use programming to solve. So put your thinking hat on, get creative, use your friends to help you come up with solutions. Just don't give up. Try to think your way through any problem that you come across when you're programming. Lastly, teamwork is a huge part of computer science. We know that when we use each other and we think together and we problem solve together, that we can come up with really powerful solutions. If you get stuck or you need a thought partner, find a friend, have them look at your code and practice your program to see if they can help you make it better or find any bugs. Before we get to the activity, let's take a few minutes and watch this short video about why programming is so important.
I was 13 when I first got access to a computer.
My parents bought me a Macintosh in 1984 when I was 8 years old.
I was in 6th grade.
I learned to code in college.
Freshman year, first semester, intro to computer science.
I wrote a program to play tic-tac-toe.
I think it was pretty humble beginnings. I think the first program I wrote asked things like, what's your favorite color? Or how old are you?
I first learned how to make a green circle and a red square appear on the screen.
The first time I actually had something come up and say, hello world, and I made a computer do that. It was just astonishing.
Learning how to program didn't start off as wanting to learn all of computer science or trying to master this discipline or anything like that. It just started off because I wanted to do this one simple thing. I wanted to make something that was fun for myself and my sisters. And I wrote this little program and then basically just add a little bit to it. And then when I needed to learn something new, I looked it up either in a book or on the internet and then added a little bit to it.
It's really not unlike kind of playing an instrument or something, or playing a sport. It starts out being very intimidating, but you kind of get the hang of it over time.
Coding is something that can be learned, and I know it can be intimidating. A lot of things are intimidating, but what isn't?
A lot of the coding that people do is actually fairly simple. It's more about the process of breaking down problems than sort of coming up with complicated algorithms as people traditionally think about it.
You don't have to be a genius to know how to code. You need to be determined.
Addition, subtraction, that's about it.
You should probably know your multiplication tables.
You don't have to be a genius to code. Do you have to be a genius to read?
Even if you want to become a race car driver or play baseball or build a house, all of these things have been turned upside down by software.
What it is computers are everywhere. You want to work in agriculture? Do you want to work in entertainment? Do you want to work in manufacturing? It's just all over.
2013. We all depend on technology to communicate, to bank, information, and none of us know how to read and write code.
When I was in school, I was in this after-school group called the Whiz Kids. And when people found out, they laughed at me and, all these things. And I'm like, man, I don't care. I think it's cool. And, I'm learning a lot. And some of my friends have jobs.
Our policy is literally to hire as many talented engineers as we can find. The whole limit in the system is just that there just aren't enough people who are trained and have these skills today.
To get the very best people, we try to make the office as awesome as possible.
We have a fantastic chef,
Free food,
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
free laundry,
snacks, even places to play and video games and scooters. There's all these kind of interesting things around the office and places where people can play or relax or go to think or play music or be creative.
Whether you're trying to make a lot of money or whether you just want to change the world, computer programming is an incredibly empowering skill to learn.
I think if someone had told me that software is really about humanity, that it's really about helping people by using computer technology, it would have changed my outlook a lot earlier.
To be able to actually come up with an idea and then see it in your hands and then be able to press a button and have it be in millions of people's hands. I think we're the first generation in the world that's really ever had that kind of experience.
Just to think that, you can start something in your college dorm room and you can have a set of people who haven't built a big company before come together and build something that 1 billion people use as part of their daily lives is just crazy to think about, right? It's humbling and it's amazing.
The programmers of tomorrow are the wizards of the future. You're going to look like you have magic powers compared to everybody else.
I think it's amazing. I think it's the closest thing we have to a superpower.
Great coders are today's rock stars. That's it.
So hopefully you got a really good idea from that video about how important programming is. So let's look at what you're going to be doing in just a few minutes here. Programming is everywhere, and it's important to know that no matter what industry you're interested in exploring as a career, there's likely going to be some programming involved in that. Even traditional jobs who didn't have any technology involved in the past now leverage the power of technology and programming to make those jobs more efficient. So even if you don't see yourself being a traditional programmer like you might have envisioned in the past, those skills are going to be helpful to you no matter where you end up. So why is this so important? As we discussed earlier, this teaches you a lot of really strong problem-solving skills that you can use in any area. There are also 1 million+ jobs. That's a lot of jobs that are open right now because there aren't enough people who know how to program to fill those jobs. Not to mention, there's some of the highest paying jobs that are out there. We also need a more diverse workforce. Did you know that only 25% of people in computer science jobs are women and only 2% are Hispanic women? That's crazy low. We really need more representation in these jobs to make sure that the needs of all people are considered when people are creating programs. But one of my favorite things about programming is just that it's fun. You can use your skills to create anything that's of interest to you or solve any problem that exists. It really just opens the door to anything that you could think of. So let's talk about what you're doing today. We're going to mix a little bit of art and a little bit of programming to create some memes using a tool called CodeHS. CodeHS is a free platform that will teach you how to do a lot of different things in computer science. In fact, some of your classes may have used CodeHS if you've taken any computer science classes before. So in this activity, which is called Generating Art with Code, you are going to start by watching a short video tutorial that's going to walk you through what the lesson actually is. Then you're going to get a chance to look at an example. So it's going to give you a set of code that already exists where you can run it and see what it actually looks like. So this is very similar to how we saw Blockly Maze. Over here on the right is our output, or what your actual program will run or create. Here in the middle is where we actually build our code. And over here is where we can pick the blocks that we want to use. Just like Blockly Maze, you don't actually have to type out a lot of code. You get to use these blocks that you can click and drag around to build your code. Make sure you watch the video before this, or you're going to have a difficult time figuring it out. So then you're going to hit next, and you're actually going to create your own. It tells you that you can choose from the pictures that are provided or upload your own, add text and other shapes to build your own meme. So you'll have some time to play around, figure out how you want this to look. Then lastly, you'll have one short video here that shows you how computer science and programming is being used in the real world to impact art. And then you'll get your Hour of Code badge at the end for completing this activity. You can print this, you can tweet it, you can do whatever you want to show that you learned how to program. We hope that you have a lot of fun with this activity. I hope that this gives you a good introduction to what programming really is, and that you'll be inspired to maybe learn more about programming in your own time. Good luck, have fun, and I hope you learned something great.